Hello, my name is Kezani Sikun of Makungu Graphics. Let me take this golden opportunity to welcome you all in my YouTube channel. In our today's episode, we're going to look at what are the important documents that the head of department in a school must have in his or her file. I think I need to state up front that this might differ depending on the part of the world where you find yourself in. Like the video or click on the subscribe button to find or to get more of these kind of videos in future. Without any further waste of time, let's get started. In terms of the HOD file, you can have it in such a way that all the documents are in one file if you prefer it in that way. This is what I mean. You might have the first section of the file being the master file and the second section being the curriculum management file. Then I've seen some of the colleagues preferring to have only one file and just subdivide it into two sections. And some of the colleagues, they have two files, then each will be dedicated to a set of documents that are supposed to be in that particular file. This is what I mean. You might have the HOD master file, then you'll have all the elements that are supposed to be there in that particular file. Then again, you have the second file, which is going to have the curriculum management tools in that particular file. Right, so we going to start with the master file, which is the first part or the first section of the HOD file in terms of what are the documents that the head of department in a school should keep in terms of the master file section of the file. Right, the first one, as you can see, is the one that speaks to the school year plan. So in the school year plan, we expect the HOD to at least have the dates, like for instance, when are the schools opening and closing per term. Then we can also have the allocation of classes. When is it going to be conducted? Obviously in the beginning of the term, but on which day or which date in particular. That's something that can go into the school year plan. Again, to add on that, we can also have a situation whereby we speak about the different dates on which meetings will be conducted in the school. I'm referring to meetings such as this school assessment committee meeting, the school-based support team meeting, or the sports meeting. When is it going to be conducted? So all those activities will go into the year plan. So that is the first part in terms of the item when it comes to the HOD master file. Right. Moving right along, the second one is the one that is going to speak to the educator profiles. So in terms of educator profiles, we are indicating that the HOD must now give us an indication of who are the teachers that are reporting to him or her in the department in terms of the subjects that he or she is heading. For instance, we're going to have the names of the teachers, and the subject that they are teaching and their qualifications. So in terms of the educator profiles, that is what is going to be contained in those documents that are called educator profiles. Right, moving right along, when we look at the second one, or not the second one, but this is the third one, this is the one that speaks to the workload. So in terms of the educator workload or allocation, this document is going to speak to how teachers have been allocated in the department in terms of the teachers that are teaching in the department, which subjects and how many hours per week, how many periods per day. Okay, that is the workload. So that is the third item in terms of the HOD master file. Moving right along, we're going to look at the next one, which comes after that, which is the school composite timetable. So here, as it indicates, this is wherein the HOD is going to put the composite timetable as generated, for instance, maybe from HSM's the time design, okay, or any other program. So we expect to find the composite timetable, which is going to speak to all the classes that we have in all the grades in the school in terms of the phase that the HOD is heading. So we're going to have that particular composite timetable inserted in this particular space in terms of the HOD file. All right, so moving right along, when we look at the next one, it's the one that speaks to educator personal timetables. Okay, so in this one, as it indicates, this is where we're going to expect that all the teachers that the HOD is heading, he or she is going to have their timetables in terms of where are they going to be found teaching at different times in those classes and in those subjects. So that is what it's all about when it comes to educator personal timetables. So he or she must have those so that if there is a class which is not attended, you can be able to determine as to who was supposed to be in this particular class. So it is one of the items that must go into the master file section of the HOD file. Right, moving right along, when we move, we can see that the next one is the one which says School Assessment Plan. Okay, SAP. The School Assessment Plan, as developed by the relevant structure, it should go into the HOD file. This is a very important document which must also be shared with the parents in order for them to know dates on which their kids are going to be assessed at school, so that they should make sure that they are not absent from school, but they are there in order to write those assessments. So the School Assessment Plan is one of the documents that should go into the master file section of the HOD file. So it must be developed in such a way that it includes all the grades that are in the school, because it is called a school assessment plan. So teachers must come together. They must start by developing their own assessment programs, which are going to contribute contribute to the school assessment plan. Right. Moving right along, we go to the next one, which is the teacher assessment program. As you can see here, this is the number 7 here. The teacher assessment program or assessment plan, it is what the teacher develops in terms of the subject that he or she teaches, being guided by the subject policy document of that particular subject. You would know that we have section 4 of each policy document, which is on assessment. So it's going to guide the teacher in terms of which assignment or assessment must be administered. Is it a test? Is it an assignment? Or what it is? Okay, it is described in section 4 of the policy document of each and every subject. So therefore, the teacher is going to use that to develop the subject assessment program, which eventually is going to contribute towards the school assessment plan. So that is number 7. Right, moving right along, when we look at the next one, is the one which is called the policy, subject policy. So the subject policy, it's the one that stakeholders in a subject come together to develop, and it should be made up of different aspects, which includes the following. We can have the subject name there, the preamble, the legislative framework that guides that particular subject, and then what the subjects indicates, maybe in terms of learner absenteeism, and then in terms of assessment. So that is the subject policy. So all the subjects that are being led by the HOD should have their individual subject policy, so that whenever teachers are supposed to teach, they should be guided by the subject policy. Right? Thank you very much. Moving right along, the next one is the one that speaks to the NCS documents. Okay, the NCS documents, these are some of the documents that are supposed to be contained in the HOD file in terms of the master file section. Okay, so when we talk of the NCS documents, for an example, we talk about the CAPS document, as you can see indicated here. All right, the continuous assessment policy statement. Okay, that is of different subjects that are being led by the HOD. Okay, then the next one is the NPA. That's the National Protocol for Assessment Grade R to 12. Okay, so it is a very important policy that the head of department should have in his or her file, because it speaks to issues of assessment generally in all the subjects, in terms of filing, in terms of schedules and the other stuff. All right, then the next document, or in terms of the policy under number 9, is the one which is called NP4R, which stands for the National Policy Pertaining to the Promotion, Progression Requirements of Curriculum Statement grade R to 12. Okay, that is the N4PR. It is having information about promotion and the progression of learners. So that is very important that the HOD should have that as one of the documents, so that whenever there are matters that he or she needs to refer to in terms of promotion or progression of learners, that particular policy should be consulted. All right, and the next one, in terms of the NCS documents to be contained in the HOD file, it's the assessment guidelines. Okay, so you can choose to have one of the assessment guidelines that you know of. Okay, it could be an assessment guideline that speaks to issues of moderation or any other curriculum related matters, as long as that is an assessment guideline which is there. Okay, so that is one of the documents that must be contained or put in that particular section of the NCS documents, and also the exam instructions. Right, moving right along, the next one is the one which is called the APIP. As you can see here, number 10, that's the APIP. That's the one that we need to have. That's the Academic Performance Improvement Plan. Okay, that is the one that speaks to the manner on how the entire school has planned to improve on the performance of learners after having done all the analysis of how learners have performed in different subjects. Okay, so a copy of that should be contained in the HOD file in terms of this section of the master file. Right, moving right along, the next one is number 11, which is the subject improvement plan. The subject improvement plan, as it indicates, it is a plan which is having different intervention strategies that teachers put together to improve on the performance of learners based on the formal assessment tasks that have been administered. Because the expectation is that after learners will have set or been subjected to a particular formal task, teachers are supposed to do the analysis, diagnostic analysis of the tasks that have been administered in order to determine as to how did the learners perform. In terms of the topics that were problematic, where learners didn't do well in the test, they need to identify those and try to figure out what contributed to that, and then thereafter develop a subject improvement plan which is intended to bridge the gap in terms of the knowledge gaps that might have been identified. What is important, which I need to indicate in the subject improvement plan, is that it should speak to the identified challenges as per the tools that have been used to analyze the formal task. It shouldn't just be developed in isolation, because we might have a situation whereby the interventions, they don't address the identified challenges. So teachers must be careful. So the HOD should have that particular document that speak to the subject improvement plan in terms of the subjects that he or she is heading. Right? Moving right along, we go to the next one, which is the LTSM policy. As you can see there, number 12. The LTSM policy is one of the documents that should be in the HOD file in terms of how LTSM related matters must be dealt with in the department. Issues of retrieval of textbooks, issues of procurement, okay, in terms of if there are LTSM materials that need to be procured, they should be addressed or governed by the policy of the school in terms of LTSM as to how are the new items supposed to be procured. So the LTSM policy, as developed by the relevant stakeholders at the school, should be part and parcel of what should be in the HOD file. Right, the next one is the one which is called here number 13, that's the inventory list. The inventory list, that is the list of teaching and learning materials that the educator might be having in his or her department. You should know as to how many for an example, how many globes or how many maps or data projectors and laptops do you have in the department, so that if ever there's a time for you to now do stock taking, that should be done on the basis of the list of items that you have. And if you are to procure new LTSM in the department or new teaching aids, you should do that on the basis of the fact that you know which are the items that you have in your department. If you don't have a list of those items, you might find yourself buying things that you are having, or not buying things that are relevant, and then you buy something else which is not relevant because you don't know about what is it that you have in your department. So that is the inventory list. Then number 14, that is the next one, which is there, as you can see there. It is the one that speaks to the departmental circulars. And here we're referring to the circulars that you might have received from your district in terms of different aspects of what you deal with in your department. Like for instance, you might have circulars that speak to assessment or curriculum management or learner absenteeism, depending on the topic of the circular. As long as you have some of the circulars represented in this particular section, it's not about to create an impression that you have to put all the circulars available in this part, but the relevant one, the recent circulars, should be contained in this particular section. Okay, right, moving right along, the next one, which is number 15 in terms of the curriculum file, which is the master file section of the HOD file. It's the district report. So here, this is where you put the reports in terms of what the district officials have given to you after visit have been made to the school. You will find that you have copies of the curriculum visit tools that departmental officials used in terms of reporting on the findings and the recommendations. So this is something that must be put in here. So in short, these are some of the documents that must be contained in the master file section of the HOD file. Again, I must indicate that, of course, depending on the type of place where you find yourself, you might find that other documents have not been covered by what I've indicated. You are free to add on what you think can go into the master file of the HOD. But basically, in terms of what I had for you in terms of the master file, this is all what we have. Then in the next part of this particular video, we're going to talk about the second part of the HOD file, which is the curriculum management section. So in terms of the tools that must be there, we're going to address them in the next video.